Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Fun Stuff Friday and we've got all sorts of fun stuff for everybody. Today we've gone through some wonderful gel pens and now we're going to look at these wonderful alcohol markers. These are Spreey, it's Spreey alcohol markers. I have the 50 pack. Now I have gone through and I have sorted them and arranged them by color family. You don't really get them in this order. The bag is a bag. It's not anything to write home about. It's a bit stiff, but it's not quite stiff enough to hold all of the markers in place. And it doesn't have a holder in the bottom that holds them in place. So they are loose in the bag and basically you have to go through and sort them all out. They are a brush tip marker. So they come with two different ends. Of course, a chisel end, which is a typical chisel end, as well as a brush tip. And the brush tip is quite nice. It's flexible, but it's not too soft, which is great. And I got marker on there. It is a triangle shape. It's not a round or a square. It's a triangular shape, which is really good for holding for any period of time. I think I like the squares or the triangle shapes for holding a little bit better than I like the round. I'm finding. They seem to be quite nice markers. I have gone through and swatched them, so we will go over to the swatch and take a look at that. And this will take just a few moments, and then we will take a closer look at the swatching as well as color with them a little bit. I have started a picture, so we're not going to, spend a lot of time coloring with them, but we will take a look at how well they cover and that the color ranges and that sort of thing. But first, let's do the swatch. Grab your cup of coffee, sit back and relax. Of course, I have sped it up and I do have it blended with some music, so it's hopefully relaxing a little bit. But other than that, relax and sit back. We will be right back after swatch time. All right, guys, one moment. All right, so that wasn't so bad. So we've got our swatch here, and as you can see, we've got our yellows into our browns, like our tanny brown orangey colors, into our more of our orange color, and then into our darker browns, our two basically skin tones. They're a little bit dark for skin tones for me, but this one here does work really well as a skin tone. And then into our pinks and our reds, into our dark reds and our browny red color. And then of course into our greens, into our aquatic green colors and our aquatic blues, into our blues. There's not a lot of purples here. There's a red violet, a light red violet, and a light purple. And that's about it for the purples, which is a little bit meh. I would rather have a few more purples. Then we go into our warm grays, and we've got 4 warm grays, 2 blue grays, and then 4 cold grays, as well as our black and our blender pen. Now it does come with a swatch, and I did go through and color the swatch that it comes with, just so that I could go through and sort them out so that I could put them in their color families as far as I could see where they should be. I will go through, and I have left enough room to add the color names as well. So let's switch over to the other camera here so you can see a little bit better. Now that these have dried, you can see the color a lot better than while I was swatching them, because as you know, when they're wet, they're a different color. So we've got a nice pale yellow here, and then we go into some darker yellows, into some orangey yellows, and you know, this to me is quite a light brown. And then we have one orange. That's an actual orange. This is an orange red down here. And then we got our browns into our dark, dark, dark brown here. And like I said, you can see a lot better now that they're dry on what colors they're actually going to be than you do while I was swatching. We've got our skin tones. This one here does seem to be quite a nice skin tone. And then we have our pinks. This is a medium bright and a hot pink. And then into our reds. And like I said, this red here is more of an orange red. And then into our darker reds and our brighter reds, into our red brown. And then into our greens. And this one here is listed as yellow green or green yellow, and it's a very light green on the paper. I don't know why it's showing yellow there, but it's actually a very light green. And then into our forest greens, into our olive greens and that sort of thing. And then we have a very, very dark, dark, dark green here. This is a really dark blue green. And then into our aquatic kind of colors there, and our blue greens. And then we go into our light blue and medium blue, bright blue, and then our purple blues, and then into our darker blues and our purples. And like I said, there's not a lot of purples, like really, really purpley purples. This one is a purple blue. That's a really dark one. But we have our light purple blue and then our 2 purples. And then we go into our warm grays. We have a 1, a 3, a 5, and a 7 in our warm grays. And then we have our blue grays, 1 and 3, and then our cold grays, 1, 3, 5, and 7. And then of course our black and our blender pen. So it does have a good range of colors for 50 colors. I would want if I was to buy these markers personally, I did buy these ones, but if I was a huge marker person that colored with nothing but markers, I would want more colors. The one thing that I didn't like about them is they bled a lot. You have to be very, very careful normally with any kind of alcohol marker how close you get to the edges of things. But some will stop when it gets to the line. It will spread to the line and it'll stop. These did not. These continued past the line and bled over. So you have to watch, and by the time I got towards the end of the swatch chart, I was able to try to control it a little bit. But even with trying to control it, I found that it was still spreading beyond what I wanted it to spread to. With that being said, I have started a picture, and I was able to actually color with them and get a good um, coloring without them bleeding everywhere. So I've used the blue-gray light, the number 1 on the wall. I've used the blue-gray number 3 on the bookcase. I've used 2 different browns on the floor here and 2 different browns here on the, I do apologize, one moment. There seems to be a delivery, so my dog is going to bark for a few seconds here until they go away. But I've used a couple of different browns. I've used tealy blue here. I think it was a green number 58 in the dark areas and blue 60. I think it's, yeah, blue 68 in the rest of it. Is a no, I don't remember what colors I used. Green 58 for the rest of it, and a darker one for the shadowing. Of course, this is the light blue and the pale blue, purple, and the purple. And of course, we've got some pinks going on there and some blues down here. And this I actually colored with a gel pen. But today what we're going to work on is we're just going to color a couple of things, and the reason why I have it on a heavy card is because I'm actually going to hopefully, if we have enough time today, work with some of those metallic paints. So we're going to color the roses and the vines as well as the newspapers and that sort of thing today with the markers. So let's start with the cool gray number 3 for our books and our papers. Now if you, I'll switch you over to the other camera here so you can see a little better of what I'm doing. There we go. So when you're of course laying down any marker, it's best to try to stay away from the edges and let it bleed out to the edge. Of course, if you find that it's not bleeding out as far as you want it to do, just go over it and try to get it out to the edge that you want it to go to. But be careful that you don't cover an area that you don't want to bleed out to. Otherwise, it's going to bleed into another color, and sometimes that can be bad, sometimes that can be good. It all depends on what you're coloring, of course. So I'm just covering these entirely with gray. Now I could go over each of them with a different gray, but I'm just going to cover them all with gray. because they're newspapers, and that's what color newspapers are. Trying to stay within the confines of the newspaper. And like I said, this will dry a lot lighter than it is going down. So it may look really dark right now, but when it dries, it will be a lot lighter. These do have an odor. They are not odor free, so if you have a tendency to get headaches from alcohol marker smell, these I don't think these would be the best ones for you, just because they actually, some of them have a very strong odor. They are a very juicy marker, and I did have a couple that seemed to have a little bit of leakage on their nibs, like up here on the plastic. So I don't know if the marker is leaking or if it's just too juicy, or I'm not sure. I'm not a huge connoisseur of markers or a um, expert with markers, so I can just tell you what I know about them, and they're not supposed to have that leakage on the lid. I didn't find that they were leaking in the lid, just that there was a bit of seepage on the nib itself, and that could just be from putting the lids on and off. The one thing I don't like about them is there is really nowhere to put the other lid. Like if, for example, I've got the lid off of this end and I have to hold it in my hand because there's nowhere to put it. So if you have a tendency to lose lids by putting them down somewhere, you might want to be a little bit careful when using these markers, because you are going to end up losing your lids by putting them down. I'm going to use Cool Gray number 1 on the book that she's reading, just because it's, I think up on the table might be closer to a light source than down on the floor. I guess I should call it a magazine because I don't think it's a book. Well, it could be a book. She's got lots of them around her, so. I'm not sure if she's in a library or in her house. I think she's in her house just by her attire and the seating. But we've colored the papers that are gray, and these ones here we're going to do with that darker gray because they're in the basket and they're going to be shadowed quite a bit. So trying to keep it contained within the lines, but hopefully I didn't spread it too far, because I really don't want it on the walls, because the walls are a blue-gray color and they don't need to be any more gray. Basically what I wanted to do with the walls was a bit of a whitewash kind of effect, and I think I accomplished that with that blue-gray color. Alright, now we're going to take number, I think, yellow 35. Which is a brownish, orangish, yellowy color. And we're going to color the basket. And of course this is a Jade Summer picture. from her grayscale from their Grayscales Fairies book. And like I said, I've attached it to some heavy cardstock with some glue because I'm going to actually use some, hopefully use some of those pretty metallic paints on it. Okay, so we've got the basket done. We've got everything on the floor done. We've got some roses there, so let's use red number red number 15. I don't know why I have 13 written down there, but it's 15. Like I said, just be really careful going to the edges. Because these will bleed. So this one I'm going to do this red. I think we're going to do multicolors here. Trying really careful not to bleed that out into the wall color or into the other flower colors. You just have to be careful so that you don't end up with, red leaves, or, the roses can be changed later, but the leaves, once you get red on them, it's kind of hard to get the red out. I'm just going in little tiny strokes to get that to bleed out to the edge. Without bleeding into everything else. Just have to be careful doing this as well, because if you go over it too many times, it gets really dark. Okay. Okay, I think that's got it. Oh, and of course, you guys can't see what I'm doing at all. Sorry, guys. So just going over, gently bringing that out, trying not to make it go anywhere but the petal of the flower. Just by touching and letting it bleed a little bit, seeing where it bleeds to. And of course this will dry a little bit lighter than it's showing wet. Okay, so we've got some red roses there. Let's do a nice pink, couple of pink roses, and maybe a yellow. And it seems that some of the tips are softer than others. Like the red tip seemed a little bit stiffer than this pink tip. Just bringing it out to the edge so that seeing where it bleeds to, so I don't bleed over. And it does seem that the pink bleeds a little bit quicker than the red. And of course, with any markers, you gotta make sure your edges stay wet. Otherwise, you end up with lines. And lines are no fun. I do apologize. Oh, I'm going to let that go to the let it go to the answering machine. Sorry about that. Wasn't expecting any calls today, so we'll let the answering machine answer it, and if it's important, they'll leave a message. Okay. So we've got some reds and we've got some purples. Let's do this one in a yellow. Not purples, pinks, sorry. I'm going to do this one here in a yellow. Okay. And I think this little bud here we'll do yellow. And this one here we'll do yellow. Alright, now for some greens. So we want number 47 and number 48 for our greens. So we'll put down the dark ones first. Just be really careful touching it, especially at the very tips, so that it doesn't bleed. Oh, let's readjust that so that I can put it where you can see it and still work on it. Alright. Now I want this one just in this area here. And then we want this one. And it will dry a lot lighter than that, so. Of course, we're trying really hard not to touch the flowers or go too far over the edges into that blue. Okay. Just trying to make sure that I have the dark areas staying dark. Alright. We'll finish up these leaves here and take a look and see if we have too much bleedage. Like I said, with markers you gotta be very careful, especially as they're drying, because that color will move even when you're not putting color down while it's spreading. So hopefully we don't end up with too much bleeding. Especially on our lighter colors. And then we're going to come in. Get all those leaves. And hopefully today we will have enough time to go through and take a look at those metallic paints and see how they do. I know I said yesterday that I wasn't going to play with those too much today because we had quite a few videos to do today, but we will see what time does for us. So if we don't have too much time done on the videos for the markers and the gel pens and the pencils, then we will take a look at those paints as well. Alright, and I think that is a part of that flower, so let's color that with the yellow. Okay, so we've got quite a bit done. We've got all the papers done. We've got the little book on the table done. Let's do the backgrounds for these paintings. We're just going to do them in this light blue. And I'll use a trying to decide if I want to use paint or I might use some metallic paint on these frames. As well as the pictures themselves, like this tree and this butterfly. I will probably use paint for, definitely for the butterfly at least. Because, yeah, metallic pretty paint for a pretty butterfly would be good. And of course, anything that bleeds over into those areas with the metallic paint will just erase and will eliminate it. So I'm not overly concerned with too much bleed through here as I would be on, say, the walls or stuff like that, because I'm not going to use paint on those. Now I have glued this onto 300-pound cardstock so that I can do the watercolor painting. 300 GSM watercolor paper is what I've glued it onto. And I just used a regular glue stick. So hopefully it will work out well. I've never done it before, so we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. And hopefully that doesn't dry with a line. I hate lines. Probably why I don't use gel pens very much or markers very much, because I don't like lines. Okay, so those are actually blue, and they're showing a little gray, but they're actually blue. All right, so I think everything else we're going to, oh no, we've got some vines that need some green. Although these are really tiny, maybe I'll do those with something else. The rest of this picture I think we're going to do in metallic paint, except for the vines, which I will probably do in gel pen. But we'll find out. We'll have to take a look and see. But so far, I have done nothing on this painting, this picture, except for use these Spreey markers, and it's turning out pretty good. I really like the ability to use them without getting a huge amount of lines. Now this is a grayscale picture, so of course all of the shadows and everything else are already there. So I didn't have to do a lot of that myself. I could have, for example, in this area here, I did use two different colors of purple. In this here area here, I did use two different colors of green, teal green. So, I didn't have to do that. Same with up here in the leaves. I didn't have to use those two different colors. The grayscaling would have done that for me. But force of habits. But for example, on the chair that she's sitting on, I didn't put a different color there. That was grayscaled in there, so I didn't need to. Um, this is the skin tone that comes in the set. This is the light skin tone I was talking about. This is YR27, and it's a nice skin tone. It's really works really well. I also used um, a very pale purple for the shadow areas. So I did enhance those shadow areas with that pale purple as well. Everything else though, I have just let the grayscale be the grayscale. And it seems to be working out quite well with these markers. So we will finish it off. I want to do the crystal ball up here and the books, as well as the vase and the small little pictures and her wings with the metallic paints. And I will of course post the picture if I don't finish it on a video. We'll see how many videos I can get done today. But as for these markers, they do quite well. They do bleed a little bit more than I would prefer. But for $5, yeah, they are a nice enough marker. They were on the deal of the day on Amazon last week for $5. So that's less than 10 cents a marker, or just over 10 cents a marker. Yeah, something like that, which is pretty good for an alcohol marker. And I have seen a lot of people use these markers and get wonderful results with them. Um, so it's just learning how to use them, learning how to control them the best way you can. So all in all, I think they work quite well. I think it's turning out to be a beautiful picture, and I am quite sure once it's all done, it will it will be fantastic. The markers did what they're supposed to do, and they blended quite well with each other. Like for example, this area here I did with that hot pink, and this was done with the medium pink here. So I think it's done its job quite nicely, um, and we will finish it off after I finish up with a colored pencil video, which it will be coming up next. I hope you enjoyed the video. I would definitely purchase these markers again, and I do kind of want to buy a bigger set. Because yeah, I need more colors. However, I do have a ton of markers in my possession, so I do need to use those up before I buy anything else, and I don't use markers a lot. Um, they are inexpensive even if you don't get them on sale. They do come on sale on the deal of the day quite often. So keep an eye on that. I will, of course, post it anytime I see it, that if there's any coupons or anything like that. So keep an eye on my Facebook page as well as the group's Facebook page. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers and end up with a community page, I will start posting them there. Other than that, guys, a wonderful set of markers for alcohol markers, other than the fact that they do have a bit of an odor and they do spread a little bit more than I like them to, so they're quite juicy. They don't seem to have too much troubles with staying in the lines on a picture if you're just a little careful with them. All in all, for the cost of them, great set of markers. Thank you all very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Of course, hit the like, comment, and subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to the channel. I am trying to hit 1,000 subscribers so that I can have my community page, so that I can, you know, post things such as coupons and things like that. There is a coupon on the previous video for the or Heathrone gel pens of a 60% off. So make sure you grab that deal because they're a really, really nice gel pen. Other than that, guys, of course, remember to relax, color, and stay safe. Thank you so much for watching. You all have a fantastic day, and of course, stay tuned for the next video, which will be looking at some wonderful pencils. We're just covering everything today. We've got gel pens, markers, and pencils, and maybe even some paint. So we will see how the day goes. Thank you all very much for watching. You have a fantastic day, a wonderful weekend, and hopefully we will see you soon. All right, guys, bye-bye for now.